Welcome back to a new video. Today I'm going to be breaking down a beat similar to First Class by Harlow. I've got a super fire vocal sample in there. The chords are very expensive, soulful kind of sounding. But yeah, let's get straight into it. The first thing I did was find a piano. I used Nahum's piano from Loophole 3. So without any effects on, it sounds like this. Straight away you can catch a bounce from that. It's pretty repetitive, but then we have the two chords at the end to give a bit more of a melodic feel to it. So we're in the F sharp minor scale. The first chord, just an F sharp minor chord. This is the 1 chord in the scale. After that, we just have a simple E major chord. This is the 7th chord in the scale. As you can see, this repeats 3 times. I took that from the Harlow song. The progression kind of repeats, and then towards the end, there's like a little bit of a switch up. So then for the last 2 chords, we have an A major chord. This is the 3rd chord in the scale. As you can see, all I did was bring up the bottom 2 notes. And then finally, we have a C minor 7th chord, which is the 5th chord in the scale. I've mentioned in previous videos, it's pretty basic music theory, but the 5th chord in the scale is a good one to end on. Once I had those chords down, I went straight into processing it. So I started off with a J37. I did a Wolf compressor to tighten up the sound quite a lot. I did bring the mix down to around about 50% though. A Valhalla vintage verb, very small, brought the mix down a bit as well. I used the ambience tiled room preset. Finally, I added an EQ. Obviously, I cut the low end out. I also added these dynamic EQs. So if you make a little bulge here and you click the arrow, click make dynamic, it almost acts like compression. So when it reaches a certain threshold, some of the frequencies, it ducks it out, but it doesn't duck it out all the time. It's pretty useful for cutting out really harsh frequencies that cut through some of the time. So that's what I've done here and here. So now it sounds like this. Next, I wanted to layer the piano with a synth pad kind of sound, something pretty simple to fill some of the low end frequencies. So I chose this Missing You preset from the Endless Bank, it's from Loophole. I copied the chords, but I took some of them out. I took the short ones out, and I also took the one at the end out. You'll see why when I add the effects. You can already hear that's really helping to fill some of the frequencies out. For the effects, I added an EQ, cutting some low end out. This is actually automated, so it's off in the intro and it comes in for the verses and stuff. Next, I did a shaper box to kind of sidechain it. Now, this is why I didn't add every chord, because I kept in the final chord to start with, and it just sounds out of place because it's not using the shaper box because of where it is in the pattern. And then finally, I added a quick chorus just to make it a bit wider. So now it sounds like this. Once I had those first 2 elements, I decided to go on Splice and find a vocal chop. Like First Class, I wanted to use a female vocal chop. Ended up going with this one.
Come through, you can bring your friends, they can come too. I'ma bring my girls and my whole crew. We can get it started.
When I heard it, I knew there were certain parts I wanted to use and certain parts that I didn't want to use. I wanted to chop it up in a way that leaves room for the artist, so I made sure it's very spaced out, and also so it adds to the bounce of the song as well. So without effects, it sounds like this.
Come through, friends, they can come too. Come through, I'ma bring my girls and my whole crew.
So for the effects, I did an alter boy, bringing the format down quite a bit. I did a reverb to it, a fruity delay, again to add to the bounce, and an EQ cutting some low end out. I boosted the high end just so it's a little bit more present. Obviously, normally with vocal samples, you'd cut the high end out, keep it nice and filtered. But in this instance, I kept it pretty present within the mix because obviously it's actually going to be a part of the song. So now it sounds like this. You also heard in the second half of the hook, I added this little top line melody. It pretty much copies just some of the notes from the chords, but it gives a little bit of variation. So I know I want to use a bunch of different real instruments. Found this ethnic flute from SRX Orchestra, and I just laid down this very simple melody towards the end of the hook. That just has a cassette on it and a vintage reverb. After that, I moved on to the drums, and I wanted to kind of do a Boy Wonder style beat with this. So I started off with his rim shot. After that, I moved on to the hi-hat. Now it looks super simple, which it is, but the velocity is where you're going to get the bounce for this. So I really took my time in picking carefully where the velocities are. But yeah, it sounds like this. So you can see that I left a gap where the vocal chop comes in. I feel like this just helps emphasize it. Next is an open hat. After that is an 808. Next is a kick. And the final drum element is this little reversed 808, just hits once. Next, I added this texture underneath. One thing I love about the First Class song is the little moments within the beat that only happen at certain times. At certain points a bass comes in and strings and brass and stuff like that, but it only happens once or it's very spaced out, which I think makes it really special within the beat itself. So I tried to replicate that. I added this synth bass that only hits in the last 4 bars or 5 bars before the next hook comes in. Then on top of that, I added another sound from SRX Orchestra. It's kind of like a string sound, but it almost sounds like brass too. What I did a little bit different was invert the chords differently. So the last 2 chords are going up. This helps kind of build into the hook and make it sound super big and grand. So yeah, it sounds like this. I also combined that with a little riser, again, just to build into the hook. I also used that brass at the end of the hook, the very end of the 8 bars, just as a little accent on top, and that sounds like this. When the beat is super simple like this, especially for a rapper, I think the structure is very important. So for the hook, what I did was chop out everything where the verse vocal comes in. That just really emphasizes the vocal. So all you're hearing is the vocal when it comes in. Yeah, that's the beat for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to leave a like and a comment and let me know what you want to see next. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.